afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second season of What the Why with Barbara Ann on RVN Television. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. Maybe you're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, or maybe sometimes you feel stuck and you just want to get unstuck, whether that's in your life, your profession, or your company. One of the things that all of our guests have in common with you is that at some point they felt somewhat similarly, or they decided they really wanted to make a big pivot and make a change in their lives. And today's guest is no exception. I'm super excited to have Lynn Ozer join us for the second episode of our second season. Lynn is one of the foremost government guaranteed lending training and technical assistance experts in the country. And of course, being as humble as she is, she was like, "You were very generous in your write-up of me," but all of it's true. Lynn Ozer is president of Multifunding LLC. Since 2010, Multifunding has helped businesses achieve their biggest growth goals through creative and personalized funding solutions, including small business administration, guaranteed business loans, and other funding options. Their team works with entrepreneurs to expand their businesses in ways they never thought possible, in part through leveraging their relationships with hundreds of lenders across the country to find their clients the very best business loan available. Lynn was the first woman to chair the board of the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, also known as NAGL. And she's been involved at a national level advocating for small businesses and monitoring the issues and trends in the industry. So much so, she recently celebrated 34 years with the organization, because she started when she was like 5. But no, in all seriousness, there's been many times if you saw small business lending legislation being passed, Lynn was probably somewhere in the room while it was being signed by the president. She has been described as a strategic and highly accomplished financial executive with vast expertise in small business lending departments, training existing and expiring lenders on SBA's loan origination policies and procedures, and advocating on the local and national levels for policies that prioritize small business. Her established capabilities include sales, credit, portfolio management, liquidation, operations, leading teams. She leverages outstanding leadership and communication skills to present opportunities to executive teams and cultivate relationships with key business partners. Lynn is also a driven and focused top performer who drives the ownership of business results, capitalizes on lucrative new opportunities, and consistently exceeds goals. She's worked in the highest levels of leadership with multiple banks through more than one merger. Banks are merging all the time in the government guaranteed lending field. Educationally, Lynn holds a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting from the Fox School of Business at Temple University, and she has several educational achievements, engages in volunteerism, I get to the end now, and received recognition for her contributions. No, they're not. They're kind of like, how does this woman have time to sleep? So she recently received recognition for her contributions, including being awarded a Lifetime Service Award from NAGL, the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders. As I said, I'm honored to have her here in studio with me. It's something I've been working on since the beginning of the first season. So without further ado, please join us in welcoming Lynn Ozer to the show. So yay!
It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh no, I'm like I said, I'm so glad that you're here and you're helping us to kick off 2023, as well as, season 2 of What the Why. And no, I seriously doubt that our audience had any trouble staying awake for that, especially those of you who watch all the time, and they know that part of what we do here is I run down the list of all of the amazing things that our amazing guests have done, and then I ask that question. And the question is, based on all of those things that you've accomplished, I don't imagine that little Lynn thought that this is what she would do when she grew up. So
No, it's
what exactly did you want to be when you grew up?
It depends on which point you're talking about. But I do remember as a child, in the basement of our house, my mother shellacked the wall that we could chalk on. And I used to teach a make-pretend class. So I guess I thought at some point for a while that I wanted to be a teacher. And then in school, I really liked math. And I thought I wanted to be a math teacher. And then I didn't know what I wanted to do. But when I went to college, at that point in time, getting a teaching job was difficult. Not like it is now. They're looking for teachers all the time. But I decided that math was my thing, and I thought I'd go into business and accounting. So I was an accounting major in college, thinking that I was going to be an accountant. I have no idea why I thought that, because it was a rude awakening when I never got a job as an accountant. I had like 37 interviews, I'm not exaggerating, and got 37 rejection letters from accounting firms. And I guess it's because I came across as flighty.
Interesting, because I would never describe you as flighty by any stretch of the imagination.
I obviously, way back when I was interviewing after college, I one time, my sister was dating a guy who worked at one of the big, this is really going to date me, big 8 accounting firms.
Oh.
And he looked in my file and it said she giggled all through the interview. So maybe I wasn't serious enough. But you know, sometimes things happen for a reason. And I've worked with accountants quite a bit in my career. And I probably wasn't well suited for that. Much more of a people person, even though numbers came easily to me. And it was something that I liked. And so it just didn't work out. So I got a job working in a insurance company in the beginning, but I took an exam to work for the government. I thought, okay, with my background, I'll work for the IRS. So you have to fill in this thing, who would you work for? And it said Small Business Administration. I had no idea what that was. So I checked it off because it looked interesting, and sure enough, I got a job with the Small Business Administration, and I had no idea what I was in for. I didn't even know what a note was. I thought a note was something you wrote to your friends and passed it over. That's how, I mean, I understood numbers, but I didn't know the jargon. So I did. I worked for the SBA for 5 years, and I learned so much, and it was so interesting, and got to go to all sorts of businesses and meet entrepreneurs. And I realized I really like entrepreneurs. They're business artists. You know, they're business, so they're, you know, they know what they're doing and they have a goal in mind, but they also have a creative side to them. Entrepreneurs, they're really passionate too about what they do and how they need to get there. I just liked it from the beginning. And after I worked for the Small Business Administration for 5 years, I went into banking. And I ran the SBA lending department in, I think it's like 9 different banks.
Yeah.
I think for 4 of them I sat in the same seat.
I was going to say, because there was transition after transition after transition.
They would buy this one and this one and this one, and it was pretty incredible. And for the longest time, you know, there was no issue. Every bank wanted SBA lending, and it wasn't until, I don't know, the next to the last bank that I worked for, when they got bought by BB&T, now Truist, their lending department didn't want our team, and then we ended up leaving and going somewhere else, and that was at the end. But otherwise, it had always been so easy to just transition, and I was fortunate enough, really fortunate enough, to work with a great team, and that just made my job even better. I loved what I was doing. And because I was doing SBA lending and I had been there, I had really deep relationships with the people at the SBA. Even in the central office, some of those people had been there for a really long time. And then I was able to join the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, which really put me in touch with like-minded people across the country. And I got to do all sorts of networking with them, and I worked on membership, and I was in charge of all the technical issues for the longest time, and I'm still doing that to this day. And I became a teacher for the trade association, and that's really where my passion came out. And I taught lenders what had become second nature to me because I had been doing it for so long and was passionate about it and understood it, and I just love that part of it. And it was a combination of meeting people and helping them. And I really like that.
And I love it because, you know, at the times that you were coming up through that industry, there weren't a lot of women in the industry in general. Banking, you know, especially the higher you go up the food chain, it still to this day tends to be, it's better, it's much better than it was. But, you know, there was definitely a type in the industry, you know, because you talked about being with Nagel for 34 years. And so, yeah, and yet the girl who giggled too much to get a job in accounting became the first ever woman to chair the National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders, which is huge.
Yeah, it was really huge for me, and I had been there and on the board of directors and in leadership position and technical issues for a while, and worked in the government relations, and then I got to be the chair, which was really so exciting because when you're our chair of a national association, and we had 800, you know, institutional members, and you really do have a voice. Even though the Small Business Administration was, and to this day, although PPP elevated it to somewhere else, but that's a whole other story that I don't even want to talk about. But because PPP lending has nothing to do
with SBA,
and what I do. It just happened to be administered through that agency.
And PPP was a special program during the pandemic that you may have heard about, but it was really not an SBA program. It was a program that was run through the SBA.
Yeah, it was created by the Treasury.
Right. And
payroll protection program.
Yes.
And when you hear that, and it's through the government, I have often thought why it wasn't through the IRS, who had the payroll records. So anyway, we won't go there. But SBA lending is for businesses, small businesses that are starting, growing, expanding, doing all sorts of exciting things. And you know, being in Nagel, and I got to go to Washington, and I got to testify in front of Congress on different issues that were facing small businesses. Oh, I remember being there during the shutdown. And when the Jobs Act came into play, when under the Obama administration, and they were doing so many things to help small businesses get back on their feet. It was a pretty exciting time.
So believe it or not, we're already at the halfway point.
Oh my God,
I know.
That's 'cause I talk a lot.
No. Every guest says it. So we're going to take a brief commercial break, and actually, as we come back from the commercial break, you're going to learn a little bit more about Lynn Multifunding LLC, and then we're going to continue our conversation. So please join us again after the break for more with What the Why and our special guest today, Lynn Ozer.
There's a story behind every business, and that's the fun part of what we do, is getting to hear the story and then finding the right lender for them. We're really good matchmakers, but we do all sorts of lending. The best lender for any business may not be in their backyard, and that's where we really come in handy. We have relationships with all different kinds of lenders across the country. Small businesses are the backbone of our country. They hire more people, they're more creative. You change people's lives.
Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Lynn Ozer. What you just saw was a little promo about Multifunding LLC. the company for which Lynn is a president. And before the break, we were talking about how the industry itself, Lynn is one of a handful of game changers in the industry in terms of women. And part of that is because of her genuine passion for helping entrepreneurs. So you were drawn to Multifunding LLC after being in the banking world.
Right.
You're banking adjacent.
Right.
Tell us about Multifunding
Okay.
LLC.
The CEO and founder of Multifunding LLC is a gentleman named Ami Kassar, who started the business during the recession, believe it or not, and has also shares my passion for entrepreneurs. And I met Ami years ago through mutual people, and because I was doing SBA lending, we had a lot in common, and we had a friendship. And when I was, they had a downsizing, and when I was looking for something else, I was thinking about going into starting another SBA lending department in various banks, which would have been the obvious thing to do, but it was like a light bulb went off because he was starting SBA Ignite, which is a division of Multifunding, and it is specifically for training entrepreneurs.
Which is awesome.
And training entrepreneurs in the benefits of government guaranteed lending. So it was like, it just meant to be, the timing was right. He has a very entrepreneurial organization, so different than banks, and it was just like, I just went, this is perfect. And I could leverage all of my training that I've done for lending across the country through NAGLE, and now flip it and work with the entrepreneurs. When I was a baby loan officer a million years ago, I spent so much more time with entrepreneurs than as you go through the ranks and you run a department, you get separated from the end user, so to speak. So the people that worked for me worked with the entrepreneurs, and to be back talking to them and feeling their passion just felt so right. So Multifunding meets with, trains, and helps small businesses find funding for whatever it is they need, whether it's startup, expansion, buying other companies. We do a lot of business acquisitions. That's really
okay. So
that's
I did not
really
know
our
that.
specialty.
Okay.
And SBA has the perfect loan program for business acquisitions, and it's what it is helping the entrepreneur buy a cash flowing business where they may not have enough collateral. And that's usually the biggest problem, because when someone's selling their business, they're selling it, but there's goodwill that doesn't have any value to a bank without an SBA guarantee. So we do a lot of that. And certain banks want a certain amount down and others take a minimal amount down. And because I know a lot of those banks across the country from working with them. So it was really great that the people that work at Multifunding understand the loan program, but we do run into complicated situations, and they really appreciate the depth of the knowledge that I bring, because they can answer the easy questions. And even the questions they come to me with, I can't answer, but I have access to answers that they didn't have. So it's working wonderfully. And they're all smart and passionate about helping entrepreneurs. And that's, it's perfect.
So, and you can tell, I mean, the way that you talk about it is something that you're so passionate about. But I imagine there was still a little bit of it took some courage to make that kind of change, to go from, I mean, granted, the banking industry is its own level of volatility, but you really did make a big change in terms of how you were going to be approaching things.
Right. And, sometimes in life it's timing. The timing was absolutely right. I spent time at Multifunding literally in the office, and not that many people were there. They came and went. Wow, and I really was still interviewing with banks.
Okay.
And the stark contrast between who they were talking to on the phone and who I was, communicating with, I realized that, it's time to go back to your roots. And it's kind of like it was time for my career to go full circle and go back to working with the entrepreneur themselves and getting them where they need to go. So we work with the entrepreneurs and we don't charge them. We get paid by the banks who make the loans to these borrowers. So it's wonderful. I mean, obviously these entrepreneurs are looking for money. They're not looking for ways to spend more money. They're looking to finance their growth. So it's really, we provide a really essential service.
Yes.
The Small Business Administration can be tricky with a lot of its rules, but when you understand it, you can make that seem like smooth sailing for the people that we work with. So we work with banks that know what they're doing, and we know what we're doing. So hopefully the entrepreneur is having a very good experience.
Yes. I used to joke that if the SBA rules, while they're not rocket science, there's still a lot of them, and it's a lot to navigate.
There's a lot, that's right.
And it is very dot your I, cross your T's, attention to detail. And someone with your level of knowledge of how that system works really does often make a difference between whether somebody gets approved and doesn't get approved, and understands as well, and also succeeds in general. And so I know I got to participate in one of the classes that you did in December that was available for no cost to the entrepreneurs. How will that look going forward? Are you going to continue to do more of those types of offerings?
Oh, absolutely. Right now we were focusing, I think it was probably on business acquisition lending, because we still are seeing a huge amount of that going on since COVID, and still the baby boomer tsunami of them retiring and selling their businesses is still going on. And this is just such a good match. So we're doing a lot of that. Yeah, we try to see what the needs are and do training that makes sense. I train on a monthly basis business brokers who are selling their businesses so that they know what's out there when they find a buyer, and that's been really helpful. I have a special program for that. But we also have modules on SBA Ignite for all different types of borrowings. SBA has some programs for real estate acquisition, for long-term working capital and short-term working capital, and machinery and equipment financing and things like that, and debt refinancing and growth capital. These are all the things, and we have vignettes that you can watch and self-train as well.
Now there are tons of entrepreneurs out there. Some of them are probably watching right now, because entrepreneurism is definitely a huge pivot that a lot of people are doing now.
We see it a lot. That's right.
So what some suggestions that you can give, 2 or 3 suggestions that you can give to some of these entrepreneurs that don't necessarily know where to start?
Okay, that's a really good question. Entrepreneurs, some of them know about business, but that's the thing that I always found interesting. There are so many entrepreneurs that know their craft, their trade, their service, but they really don't know that much about business. So I would suggest that they find an accountant to work with that can help them, and maybe an attorney, but an accountant that will help them with that. But the Small Business Administration still has some pre-business workshops. The Small Business Development Centers have that, and then companies like Multifunding that put on training and help you to figure out what it is that you need. If you've already worked in an industry, maybe you're looking to buy that kind of a business, and we can help with that. If you really need help learning business, we can make suggestions to where you go, and also the Small Business Administration will point you in those directions. But the one thing that I would say is you need to be as passionate as you can, because it's going it's like having another child when you have a business, and it needs all your time and attention.
Yes.
So that's the one thing. But you know, you do need to have decent credit. You have to have handled your personal credit properly.
Yeah.
That, you know, explainable credit is fine with the Small Business Administration,
Yes.
but you need to do that. And it would be good if you had your own money to put into the project. SBA doesn't require it in all situations, but if you're in a startup or you're buying another business, you do have to have at least 10%.
Yeah, what
in
we call
cash.
skin in the game.
Skin
You
in
need
the
to have
game,
skin in the game.
Exactly. That's really what they're looking for. And of course, you know, expertise. And if you don't have business expertise, then what they want you to do is surround yourself with someone who does. So you can be, you know, the best widget manufacturer in the world as long as you have somebody else in there helping you, and that's what you need. So those are real basic things, but it's stuff that you need. And if you're beyond that and you know what you want, multi-funding can help with what you need to put together to present to a bank. And I think that's one of the biggest, you know, things that we offer is we tell
that's
you.
huge.
We tell you what financial information you need. We tell you. And we also have resources that will help you write a business plan or even review your business plan. So those are things that we can do for you because we're a full service advisory firm.
And those things are invaluable to someone who's getting started.
Right.
So believe it or not, we're at time. So if somebody wants to reach out to you for all of these different wonderful things you talked about in terms of how to get started, because if you're going to have a successful business, you have to build it on a strong foundation.
That's right.
What's the best way to reach you?
Oh, you can reach me at Ozer, Lozer, at multifunding.com. And I will be thrilled to set up a time to talk with you or just correspond with you.
Awesome. You can also Google her. You will see countless items of information, but for those of you who are on LinkedIn, you can find her there. And Multifunding has a strong social media presence.
We do. Multifunding is on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and you can find us there.
So thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
for
much.
taking
I really,
time.
really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I really appreciate it. What is the best way for people to contact? I already asked you that. Never mind. I got distracted because there's a phone ringing, I don't even know whose it is. Anyway, well, maybe we'll edit that part out. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Maybe it'll make a gag reel on TikTok. Either way, now that we are into 2023 and season 2, we have some additional inspiring guests coming up, including Meredith Bell, the heart-centered connector and president and co-founder of Grow Strong Leaders, organizational change consultant Belle Walker, and Joanne Morton, positive energy artist and owner of Magic Passion Love Art, and many more, including some guys. I really do have some guys coming up, and others. So please believe me when I say you don't want to miss what any of our upcoming guests have to say about their journeys. As a reminder, What the Why, even in season 2, will continue to air on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and is also available on demand and on Roku, and coming soon to some additional platforms in 2023. And please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life or career, no matter how big or small, please tune in for more informative, inspirational, inspiring, and educational conversations with guests such as Lynn Ozer, and others who wanted to make changes and overcame maybe the fears, the challenges, the obstacles, the gender issues in the industry that they were in. And they did so, they found their purpose, and they are living it.